Hello and welcome to today's video. Today we are discussing the best exotic this season, and it's not those boots. Trust me, it's not. We went into this season knowing all 6 of our exotic armor pieces. We looked at all 6, and I think the initial reaction of Seeking Filaments was one of overhype. We now have them in the game. They are quite good. But I don't think they're as good as everybody thought they were going to be. The gloves from the Warlock were looked at, and everybody went, okay, 2 cold snaps. I looked at that and went, that's 2 turrets. And yes, it does mean that is 2 turrets. It is 2 turrets available to you to abuse. It is incredibly strong, and this build, with this setup, abuses the crap out of it and can be used at any level due to the increase in headstone available weapons within the game. Let's hop into this build so I can show it off, so that way you too can enjoy Osmiomancy. Alright, first up, let's cover the class and the weapons, and then we'll head into the armor. So first up, the class. We are on Shadebinder, obviously in order to take command of these gloves, seeing as they are a stasis glove. Our aspects are going to be Ice Flare Bolts and Bleak Watcher. Ice Flare Bolts lets our freezes chain after shatter or death, and our Bleak Watcher is our stasis turret. Things to note here, you're not going to be on the normal cold snap cooldown of 2 minutes and 1 second. You're going to be on the base Glacier Grenade cooldown. This is how they balanced Bleak Watcher out, so people wouldn't just use dust fields at 24 seconds, right? Because that would be probably busted to be able to just have 24-second turrets. They balance Bleak Watcher out so that it's the same cooldown as running a Glacier Grenade, which is the longest cooldown grenade in the game. I think the only one longer is the Sticky Arc one. Fluxes, yeah. Flux is the only one that I think is longer, at 3 minutes and like 2 seconds or something, which is ridiculous. But moving on from that, our fragments are Whisper of Torment. This will give us grenade energy when we take damage. In regular content, you're not going to notice this. I'll be honest with you. In regular content, you're not going to notice this. In regular day strikes, in regular day dungeons, and regular raids, you won't notice this at all, because you're not going to be taking enough damage for it to be noticeable. You will notice this, however, the second you get to a GM, the second you get to a Master Raid. This becomes huge, because this, as far as I can tell, scales off the total damage you take. And so high-end content, where stuff like basically almost one-shots you, right, and all that damage you take happens at once, you really feel the increase in grenade energy. Where in regular stuff, you're killing stuff too fast to even feel the damage you're taking, right? So you can barely feel that grenade cooldown decrease. Second, we are using Whisper of Shards. Whisper of Shards is what makes this amazing. And we will see why we can take advantage of Whisper of Shards. But Whisper of Shards is what breaks this class completely, and it breaks all stasis classes. Because there's a lot of ways to create stasis crystals for free. Like, for free. And Whisper of Shards abuses that ability to create the stasis shards. Next up, we're going to use Fissures. That way, anytime we destroy a stasis shard, they cause a big explosion. And any frozen targets, when they die, they're going to explode in a bigger total stasis shatter, right? So that way you kill more enemies with that stasis shatter. And fourthly and lastly, we are using Whisper of Rending. This is to make it so that way headstone weapons basically one-shot the headstone crystal that they create. This makes it so that way when you use a headstone weapon, you're not sitting there shooting just as much into the crystal as you would be shooting into the next enemy, which then makes headstone extremely strong, because there's nothing else really here you need to run anyways, because all you really need is shards and rending. The rest are your choice, really. Headstone weapons. You can craft this new pulse rifle, which I would highly recommend. It is quite good, and because it's unstopped this season, will be quite good. If you have an IS Luna, don't worry about it. If you have an IS Luna, don't worry about this pulse. IS Luna is just as good, but this pulse does feel really good. Crate, the new 720 Stasis Auto Rifle, does indeed roll with Headstone, and I would highly recommend getting Subsistence Headstone on it, with preferably the biggest mag you can get. Subsistence procs off of Headstone Crystal kills, so if you kill an enemy with the Headstone Crystal after it explodes, or after you destroy it with the shatter damage, it'll proc Subsistence, which is really strong in endgame content. And then obviously, because it's a Vice weapon, it has the new Vice Origin trait, which makes it so that way you reload very rarely. Alright, that is it for the class and weapons. We're going to now head into the armor. Armor-wise, we have, first up, the helmet. The helmet here is on Stasis. The main reason for this is for power preservation. This makes your super extremely good for your teammates. The super is a long cooldown super, but the super is incredibly strong, and that's why it is a long cooldown super. And so to help make your super even stronger and more warranted running, and not just using any super energy you get for special finis and stuff, right? You're going to run power preservation, and you're going to generate yourself an extra orb or so. You're going to generate an extra 5 or 6 orbs total during your super, and generate all that super energy for your teammates with much shorter super cooldowns, which will help your team play with this build. Second, we're running Harmonic Siphon, so that way whenever we're using that Stasis weapon, because obviously we want the Stasis weapon to create those Headstone crystals, we get Orbs of Light on successive multi-kills, and then we have Elemental Armaments on to generate Stasis Elemental Wells. Next up, we have Reaping Wellmaker, so when we pop our class ability, the next kill is going to give us Void Elemental Wells, and we're going to take advantage of these Void Elemental Wells very easily by using Well of Tenacity. Well of Tenacity is here, so that way when we pick up those Void Elemental Wells, we get that Protective Light level buff from old Protective Light, right? And that'll help protect us from our enemies. Also, if you have the space, since you'll be on a Void chest piece for the season, I would highly recommend being on Void for your chest pieces this season. You can run Thermoclastic Shock and Void Resistance, so we have Arc, Solar, and Void Resist all in the same piece. This build becomes very viable in all content this way, because you don't have to worry about what resist you're dealing with. It's all there all the time, right? Next up, we have our boots. Our boots are on Solar here, and I just have a small strength mod, though this should actually be a small resilience mod. This should be a full resilience mod to get me to 5 result, right? To balance out my stats a little better. Or it could even be a small intellect to put me at 5 on my intellect. But we have Bountiful Wells here and Recuperation. That's really the whole point of the boots being on Solar, is so I can use Bountiful Wells and I can use Recuperation, which is the best survivability perk on any armor in the game. Lastly, we are on a Arc class item. I think most people will know why I'm on an Arc class item. It's to take advantage of Seeking Wells. Seeking Wells is, in my opinion, almost better than Bountiful Wells. If you can't afford Bountiful Wells, I would make sure you put Seeking Wells on. It makes your Elemental Wells feel like they're somewhere close to you. It makes them feel like you can actually take advantage of them. And when I was first doing my Elemental Well builds, I wasn't taking advantage of Seeking Wells, but Seeking Wells has very quickly become one of my favorite combat style mods in the game. It makes your very simple loop with your combat style mods a lot more achievable, because you're not trying to do anything special here with your combat style mods. You're just trying to accelerate the build to what it can already do, right? We also have Lucent Finisher on, so that way any finishers I get on champions or Lucent Hive, the most likely areas where I'll be using this, generate heavy ammo. And then I also have a minor recovery mod on to make sure my stats stay at 100 for my base recovery and discipline. From there, stat wise, I recommend trying to get to 6 resil and 5 intellect if you're trying to min-max your stats perfectly here on build. But I wouldn't worry about that too much. As long as you have 100 recuv, 100 discipline, you're in good shape to take advantage of this build to its best capacity. Alright, that's all for the build. Alright, that's all I have for you today. I hope everyone enjoyed this video, and I hope that it gets you to go get Osmiomancy, because I know many people, this isn't the exotic they chose, the end of the legendary campaign, and I hope it convinces you to go get these gloves. These gloves are a Stasis Warlock exotic, finally. I mean, we used to just run Eye of Another World because it worked in endgame content, right? There was nothing special you had to do. These are the very similar way, but they innately work with Stasis Warlock in a way that you can take advantage of and abuse. I would go farm out these gloves. I would go get a really good pair of them. They are an S tier glove, and I would highly recommend having them. I hope that everyone enjoyed this video. I appreciate all the support on the Titan video from last week, from Sunday. I never thought I'd have a video break 6,000 views. That's kind of crazy to me a little bit. We also broke 75 subs just today. So I appreciate all the support recently. I hope it continues going into the future. And if you did enjoy this video, consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel if you're interested in more content just like this. I'll see everybody on Sunday for a brand new video. Thank you, and goodbye.